This is a complete recap video of Season 1 of the Scholar Warrior series. Please enjoy the story. We will try to summarize the Manhua storyline, entitled The Scholar Warrior, Forgotten. Continuing to the storyline set in the province of Hebei, precisely in the Palace of 1,000 Swords, a father was walking in the courtyard of a beautiful palace, while grumbling about the nature of the only son named Cheon Muji, we call Muji, who is very lazy in studying martial arts family heritage, despite having martial talent. Muji is more interested in literature, or we can conclude that Muji prefers to be a scholar in the future. Muji's obsession to become a scholar becomes more and more so when he notices the simple life of an old scholar who is reading a book far from fisticuffs, let alone wars that shed blood at that time. Muji is curious about the old man's reading book, entitled Regret of a Dragon. The book is written in a secret language. Not just anyone interpret the true meaning of the writing. The boy was curious about the contents. Muji then asked for help old man to teach him how to read the writing, and that evening Muji spent his time to learn. Old man who was impressed and gave the book to Muji as a gift. This moment became a turning point in Muji's life back to everyday life. MC Muji, who got a challenge from the family about his ideals, had to undergo martial arts training. As usual with other bossy, Muji practiced horses, the most basic exercise of any martial arts. The look of bored and tired faces was clearly visible on the faces of the bosso, was no exception on Muji's face. But after practicing long enough in this exercise, Muji managed to develop a cheating technique. Muji could sleep in an easel position, although he could trick the coach in the middle of a sweet dream. Muji suddenly, a hard kaplokan landed in Muji's head. It turned out that he already knew this cheating technique, and again lectured Muji. On the other hand, the coach, who is also the younger brother of Muji's father, was impressed. How could a 12-year-old boy fall asleep while training horses that drain stamina? So said Muji's uncle. That night Muji, who was about to fall asleep, actually lost control of his body. A blue dragon appeared from Muji's head and made Muji's eyes shine like Avatar Aang. The dragon went around Muji's room, while looking for something stacked with books that were very many in the room. After that, the dragon re-entered Muji. In his dream, Muji is now in a mysterious cave. Particles of light filled the entire wall of the cave. Also appeared vines that add to the impression of the beauty of the cave. Here Muji began to prejudge whether there is a connection in Muji's dream with his life in the past. The next day, when Muji again required exercise horses, a miracle experienced. Muji, all muscles and cells in his body seemed to respond faster than usual. Perfect attitude that is usually achieved Muji within 1 hour can now be cut in half. Even though Muji in this case looked upset and not the dream of becoming a scholar is still firmly attached to Muji's mind at night. When Muji sleeps, strange dreams yesterday again appear. This time the dream feels like real. This is then used by Muji to explore. After so long exploring the cave that resembles a maze, Muji finally gave up, because no matter how hard he tried, he returned to the starting place in the middle of his decision from a small part of the cave. Muji whispered, then looking for the origin of the sound. After following the sound, it turned out to come from a small cave, and more than other caves. Unfortunately for Muji, the slippery surface condition made him slip into the deepest part of the cave in the form of puddles, and made Muji wake up still in a state of NGOs and Gosen. Muji felt there was a resemblance of the formation of the cave labyrinth by way of writing the old script he got from the old man. Before he was sure of his findings, Muji went back to sleep. The dream came again and praised. This time there was no confusion, looking for his way to the cave wall, and was sure that this place was the key to the mystery of the dream that came to him back. And Muji's hypothesis turned out to be true. Muji was kicked out of the dream, and he woke up by himself. The miracle was again felt by Muji after 2 nights in a row having the same dream. This time, all the nerve cells of Muji's brain experienced increased performance. It was not a hard effort now. Muji can understand the essence of every book. He read it, did not he has been forced to learn all this time? And sure enough, his body now feels lighter, both arms and legs, as if more easily moved to follow every direction of the theory that makes him again regret. It seems the way to reach his goals will be further if the father knows his talent, said Muji, upset still. In doubt over everything, Muji consulted with his sister. Muji's brother Muji is the person closest to Muji. Muji also considers if his brother will not tell about his findings to the father, which obviously makes the brother surprised, been amazed. The future of the clan 1000 Swords seems to be bright. 1 month past this time, Muji had the opportunity to be absent from his martial arts training with his brother and mother. Do not forget, Muji's father will attend the birthday of his grandfather from his mother's side to the 70th year. This trip took months, just to go to breathing the air of freedom. First focus, distracted no less. There was a girl who was seasick, was removing his stomach fluid not far from the position. Muji felt sorry. Muji approached the child, hit his shoulder, and taught him breathing techniques to eliminate seasickness. This technique, Muji Pimbabakan itself, in the middle of the trip that made the grandfather of the boy, who observed from afar, amazed. The curious grandfather then asked Muji about the technique, while asking Muji to teach him. If willing not to get there, see the potential that Muji, the grandfather, also checked the flow, where then we know if Muji has martial arts talent, that if developed, Muji can become the #1 figure in the corner. Mudram talent, like Muji, used to be owned by a man, but the man had the wrong path, so as to bring destruction. Demurim was lucky at that time, a combination of hundreds of clans united to face him, and managed to kill and seal the man's demonic energy. The grandfather then gave a round stone that we do not know the use to. Muji, the grandfather, only explained that this stone is a stone of health. Time passed. After months of wading the ocean, Muji family arrived at the residence of the grandfather Muji. A small conflict had occurred between the clan of 1000 Swords and the clan of Pakeng. At that time, Muji managed to prevent the outbreak of conflict. Short story, Muji's group arrived at his grandfather's residence. Muji, who was circling his grandfather's palace, found a strange arrangement of stones in the yard, and the grandfather apparently observed the behavior of Muji, who spoke alone. His grandfather then asked Muji what exactly Muji was thinking, even though he was initially surprised. Muji then explained to the grandfather if he was amazed by the arrangement of stones around the palace, each part of which was connected to each other with different portions of pressure. Muji assumed that this arrangement of stones described the movement technique of his family's pride. The best food and drinks were served, freely enjoyed by everyone, but again the joyful moment was broken when the chief Peng shouted. How could the clan elders who were present said that the graceful dance of the women who performed earlier was part of the martial arts? Kokot Chairman Peng, the real show for martial arts activists is the fight of two men, added the chairman of Peng. Again, everyone was annoyed by the speech of the chairman of Peng. Is no exception to the host, who else, if not his grandfather. Muji grandfather then answered correctly, also my grandson will fight the youngest son. How Papa Eng, so roughly said the grandfather. The grandfather was sure Muji was able to defeat the youngest son of the Pakeng family. How did not last night the grandfather saw the extraordinary talent possessed by his grandson? Muji family initially refused both father and mother. Even Muji himself was surprised. How could Muji, who had been lazy in training, could win against his son? Si Pakeng described the youngest child of the Paeng family is tall, with large stature, with muscles that have been the courage to carry a long machete or a large sword. The Jongman weapon arena is identical to the sword style of the Peng family's pride, and Muji's first fight begins. His grandfather then asked Muji what exactly Muji was thinking, even though he was initially surprised. Muji then explained to the grandfather if he was amazed by the arrangement of stones around the palace. each part of which was connected to each other with different portions of pressure. Muji assumed that this arrangement of stones described the movement technique of his family's pride. The best food and drinks were served, freely enjoyed by everyone. But again the joyful moment was broken when the chief Peng shouted. How could the clan elders who were present said that the graceful dance of the women who performed earlier was part of the martial arts? Kokot Chairman Peng, the real show for martial arts activists, is the fight of two men, added the chairman of Peng again. Everyone was annoyed by the speech of the chairman of Peng, is no exception to the host. Who else, if not his grandfather, Muji grandfather, then answered correctly, also my grandson will fight the youngest son. How Papa Eng, so roughly said the grandfather. The grandfather was sure Muji was able to defeat the youngest son of the Pakeng family. How did not last night the grandfather saw the extraordinary talent possessed by his grandson? Muji family initially refused both father and mother. Even Muji himself was surprised. How could Muji, who had been lazy in training, could win against his son Se Pakeng, described the youngest child of the Paeng family, is tall with large stature with muscles that have been the courage to carry a long machete or a large sword. The Jolman weapon arena is identical to the sword style of the Peng family's pride, and Muji's first fight begins. The atmosphere at the grandfather's birthday event instantly became tense, but instantly collapsed when he saw Muji's ridiculous behavior that actually approached his opponent. With a curious face, Muji circled Jolman's body, spread his attention, and praised his body shape, and Bak Boka, who first saw the superhero character Dekak, admiringly expressed Muji, who actually burned emotions from as far as Mun. The first attack was then defeated by Jolmun. The wind around the arena blew hard following various Jolmun sword moves on the other side. Muji, without him realizing, he was able to withstand every attack from Young Moon with his sword. The small contrast scene saw Muji's body size and small sword against Moon's figure with his big cleaver, until at some point fresh blood flowed from Muji's stomach. Slash Mashit, Jemin, able to penetrate his defense himself, crashed away from the position of Jolmun, stood with difficulty. Muji tried again to take the horses to defend, while on the other hand Jolmun bravely back to take the horses' attack. Crossed Jolmun's mind if he would win this fight and give pride to his family, especially his father, who he respected. Muji, who has received injuries, only now realizes the fact that he will not be able to win from Jolmun if he does not practice the basic swordsmanship of the Thousand Swords family seriously in this fight. It hurts, because Jolmun's Sabaton Machit makes him realize that martial arts is the only thing that can keep him alive. Dinyering it is necessary to know, even though he has read many books about martial arts and understands the essence of the book, Muji's body has not been able to compensate for every movement information he remembers in his head. With a combination of slash and survive movements, this is Muji's basic sword move. Stimulating the entry into the radio, Jolmu's attack did not stay still. He also returned to slash. His mashik friction of the two weapons made a loud sound. Two metals collided to fill the arena. Sparks occasionally appeared. Jolmun's movement several times could be predicted Mujid, which made Muji able to attack at the right time and dodge very well. This moment invited admiration from the audience, who attended. The cheers of support were also shouted by supporters of both sides in the middle of an intense fight. Jolmun's body that felt fit to emit a golden aura mixed with bluish. This is the aura of the fighter, as a result of the manifestation of which the typical technique of Pak Engdora's family pride was then channeled by Jolmun to his mashit, and was all over his body, was filled with cuts. The clothes he was wearing were also no longer in shape, with a kneeling position, testing the fall. At least that was what Jolmun believed to be losing. Arrogantly he brandished his big mashit into the air while shouting his victory, but the entire audience was silent Instead of the moon's snail, the audience's gaze was directed towards Muji. Muji got up again. While smiling now, he found a mistake in the sword dance Cheon when the fight then continued. This time, the two sides clashed swords with more intense lightning, and sparks appeared more often than before. Cheon's anger was even more so, seeing Muji's small figure could keep up the fight so far, until in the end Cheon decided to use the secret technique of his father's pride to slash Muji's body. Muji was defeated again thanks to this technique, still holding a mashite that almost split Muji's head if it was not held with a sword. He said if Muji wanted to kneel and apologize, Cheon would forgive him and would not hurt Muji's small body. In the midst of despair, Muji, who was in a desperate condition, an instant whisper was heard whispering that came from the audience. When Muji was looking for the source, turned out to be from a little girl who was met on the ship while on the way to the blue stone grandfather's house. Said the girl used the power of the blue stone. He said again. Without thinking, Muji focused his mind on the blue stone in his pocket, and surprisingly greenish energy instantly enveloped Muji's body. While giving him the strength to rise up and fight, Cheon's slash Muji's movements looked very fast. The audience in the arena could only see Muji's body moving like the shadow of Cheon's father was seen exhaling the drink he was drinking. While Muji's father could only gawk at this phenomenon, the entire arena was instantly silent. The tip of the sword is now right in Cheon's stomach. A little push, then the stomach could be hollow, and the vlog is so loud it sounds like applause and friendly cheers, shaking the battle arena. This time the fight was won by the youngest son of 1,000 swords, Cheon Muji. After the fight was over, by holding back the shame of Pak Eng's family, quickly left grandfather Muji's residence. All the people who saw them were whispering about the fight, while Muji now seemed to be running around the city like he was looking for someone. Muji was looking for a young girl who had helped him in the fight. After a long time around, Muji finally found a figure who taught the girl was walking in the city with her grandfather. They were also about to leave the city after attending his grandfather's birthday. This opportunity Muji used to convey gratitude, also to get to know his helpers. Their chat lasted a long time without them realizing both feel compatible with each other. The beauty of the city also adds to the fun of the chat. The two children. It doesn't feel like it's afternoon. Muji and his helper girl finally have to separate. We leave our hero for a moment elsewhere, precisely in the Pang family residence, which is located in a mountain with sharp stone hills. Dozens of students and guards are practicing using their respective mashites in a room. Cheon's father is scolding Cheon. The father feels very embarrassed and disappointed, especially now that the condition of their advertisement is not okay. The clan leader, who is also the grandfather of Cheon, is in a sick condition. The grandfather is now in a coma due to failing when trying to penetrate the 9th layer of the Pak Eng family's martial arts level, the part of the blood flow point, and where the grandfather was now in a locked state, was the worst condition for a martial clan. The father then punishes Cheon for independent training in a confined space until an undetermined time. Still in a state of irritation, the father is now spilling his emotions by practicing swords. The entire family's courtyard is now in a messy condition. Deep cuts from Cheon's father's sword moves left the former Antero village. The courtyard in the middle of the training came a group of uninvited guests. The group leader even attacked Cheon's father. A black aura enveloped the claws of the group leader, who directly addressed Cheon's father. A brief fight ensued in just a few movements. Cheon's father was defeated, a result that even Jengwoo's own father could not believe it. The group leader then threatened Cheon's father himself, asked to be reunited with the Pang clan leader, who is. It turns out that the purpose of this group is precisely to help Pak Eng's family from destruction, with the mysterious ability of the chairman to treat grandfather Cheon. A dark and full-blooded aura from the sharp nails of the group leader managed to reopen the blood flow. and where it was previously blocked. He also gave a prescription drug that can be consumed for the full recovery of the grandfather, although not yet aware of the real hue in the skin of the grandfather back red, indicates if the blood back circulating in his body normally. Regarding the reward, the head of this group asked Pak An's family to destroy a martial clan whose purpose was still kept secret. Jongwoo's father also agreed to this request back to Muji. He has now returned to his residence. All college students welcome him cheerfully. They are proud, because the young master they will serve in the future has shocked Murim with his talent, seen in the fight against the youngest son of Pak Eng's family. Muji was given a magic pill family inheritance by his brother. This pill should only be given to the successor of the head of the family when it meets the criteria, but Muji's previous victory was considered sufficient to meet the criteria, and Muji finally ate the pill. Once consumed, the effects of the pill began to be seen all over Muji's body. Turned red, his muscles became more tense. Muji, who is in a reclining position, seems to have difficulty controlling enter super large energy into his body. High concentration even makes Muji's body float in the air. White energy instantly comes out of his whole body. His eyes shine, and Muji managed to absorb all the energy earlier, a new achievement in Muji's life and others. Back to the family of Pak Eng. Medical therapy is again undertaken by the elder with prescription drugs that have been obtained, and chanting spells and energy channels from the group that helped Pak Eng finally able to open his eyes again. The elder is now completely cured of the disease that befell him for years. New hope for Pak Eng's family, and the day of redemption arrived. Kilampa Eng, who was assigned to suppress a martial arts clan, carried out his plan. Here a clan could not arbitrarily attack another clan for no apparent reason. There were Murim legal consequences that they would bear. Therefore, thanks to the plans of the intelligent children of the Pain clan, they managed to attack the targeted martial clan successfully. The health of the returning Pain clan chief had to be paid for with dozens of lives of other innocent members of the martial clan. They died as a result of family tricks. Okay, now we are already in the middle of the Season 1 story, and of course we will continue this story, continuing to the end in the near future. The firm steps of the dark and suggestions from Yumin appear to be approaching the gate of the martial clan residence that had previously been destroyed by Pak Eng's family leading the group. A man with a stern face and a sharp gaze walking at the very front of the man whose name we do not know is the real leader of a mysterious clan who later teamed up with the Pang clan to start a war orchestra in Penjuram. Their arrival turned out to be aimed at monitoring the process of extracting treasures contained in the mountains elsewhere. Muji's parents are talking about an incident that happened not far from their residence. The father has actually conducted an investigation about this, although he suspects that in the end they do not have enough evidence to support his suspicions. However, the shadow of the battle was getting closer to the Heavenly Sword clan, or the 1000 Swords clan, so the father finally decided to send Muji to train in a closed room to hone his martial skills. Meanwhile, somewhere a row of stone mountains arranged beautifully complete with green trees adorned the magnificent scenery at that location. The duo of grandfather and grandson, who we have known before, are in a hurry to jump over every stone step on the slope after parting with Muji at his grandfather's birthday. It turns out that they came to this place. An old building that looks like a temple is the main purpose of their trip. A large hole is also visible in the wall of the temple, just behind the altar. Is located. It seems that someone deliberately broke through this temple and took something that was originally guarded. The two men then perform a mysterious ritual, starting with a little girl, removing a blue stone similar to what Muji has now, and then they focus their energy to find the whereabouts of the object that has been sought from this temple. However, no matter how hard they tried, they finally failed. I don't know what the missing object was. Back to the Heavenly Sword clan's residence, with all Muji's family members, now heading to the independent training location, which is in the basement of his family's residence, separated by a dragon-carved iron door. The training room is complete with lighting and various statues of men practicing the sword, is now a place where Muji spends his time practicing. The father gives Muji a target to be able to leave this room. He must reach the 7th level of martial arts, techniques the pride of his family. Among Muji's brothers, then his eldest sister, he reached that level. It was only able to reach his brother after practicing independently for 3 years in this remote place. A sense of depression began to approach Muji. The shadow of a teenager his age who could spend free time outside made Muji feel treated unfairly. The burden of being the successor to the throne of the head of the family was very heavy felt by this boy penalty, so he realized he had no other choice. With a shaky step, Muji approached a row of weapons and took a sword. Initial steps praised, treading the world of Murim. Finally began gusts of wind from Muji's sword movement began to fill the room the first day of training. Muji lived it very seriously. Step by step, swing by swing, made Muji well aware of what his shortcomings were. His whole body ached, his arms and legs began to tremble hot from the muscles that were forced to make Muji fall exhausted, and Muji again grumbled why he had to undergo all this gum in his heart. In the middle of his rest, a knocking sound was heard from the iron door. The family servant was delivering food to Muji instead of rice and his favorite side dishes. Muji was now only given food in the form of 2 kinds of pills, 1 pill to restore, which 1 more pill to nourish his body. Lucky Muji's oldest brother smuggled a plate of steamed sponge along with a stack of books to relieve the boredom of his beloved sister. Although later, after checking the contents, it turned out that the book given by Muji's brother was a martial arts book, not just a literary book or encyclopedia that had been Muji's favorite book. It was like he had no other choice. In the middle of reading again, Muji's brain works faster. Every letter in the book will float into his head just like that. Muji can understand every point. This triggers a strange phenomenon. Thanks to martial arts, information that enters so much energy in his body is now rebelling incoherently. The explosion of energy occurred in every part of the boy's body. This then brought Muji to another dimension. He seemed forced to enter a mysterious cave that had been present in his dream. But this time, the cave walls radiated a more concentrated light. A golden dragon was also present following Muji's steps. The dragon told Muji that he could more quickly solve the mystery of this mysterious cave. Turning to another place, Peng's family group now comes to the location of their old dark energy user clan's residence. Precisely, his grandfather Jeonbun offers to cooperate with this party. Their clan will send workers financial supplies and additional mining equipment for free on the condition that they accept Jeonbun's brother as a student. Not only that, apparently a sign of a big war that will soon come across Murim has begun to be felt by Yeonmun's grandfather, and they decide to take part by siding with this dark energy user clan. The time has passed exactly 6 months since Muji conducted training in a closed room. Muji, who was bored in the middle of his training, now just relaxing on the floor feeling bored, and also lonely, made this boy act up again. Still remember about the statue in the training ground. Now they have their respective names written on the forehead of the statue. On the eyes, there are already streaks resembling pupils and expressions of the statues made by Muji arbitrarily. Muji also invited to play and seemed to be friendly with these statues. This Muji did so that he would not go crazy. The mission given by his father had actually been achieved by Muji. The 7th layer of martial arts techniques at Heavenly Sword had been achieved thanks to his training. Now the swing looks more steady. Muji's body can also perfectly follow every formula of his strange sword moves. Muji did not decide to leave the training cavity. Muji was desperate to continue his training at the 8th level. It was not without reason that the 8th level was an absolute requirement for a man in the Heavenly Padang advertisement to occupy the throne as the head of the family, considering that he was the sole candidate for the position. Muji then continued his training, and Muji's Tian, now he felt that he was growing hundreds of pills that he had consumed during this time, helped this progress. Muji meditated to compress the great energy in his body. New points of energy in Muji's body were now created, merging these points created a big energy explosion in Muji's body. The energy boost also flows more naturally like a waterfall, which represents the energy flowing rapidly throughout the body. Muji, this new achievement, further strengthens our genius puzzle. To penetrate the 8th layer day after day again, lived Muji. By practicing now, he can even project the shadow of the statue to accompany him to practice. Slash after slash, stab and slash, made the air in the sun training room lightning energy, also constantly came out of Muji's small body, until at some point Emoji reached a point of enlightenment that made him successfully penetrate the 8th layer of the Heavenly Sword clan's martial arts techniques and Freedom Day. Muji also arrived. All family members welcomed the success of this lazy boy and genius. Just a step out of the training room, Muji's father actually gave a new mission to his youngest son. Muji was assigned to attend the Muram Martial Clan Conference to be held at the Student Union Center. Muji was not alone. A series of bodyguards prepared by his father to accompany him on the journey. He had to take the western route through various mountains and forests to reach the meeting location. Although initially refused, Muji accepted the task from his father. This little boy is now leading his entourage towards a journey that he himself does not yet know how long and what kind of danger will await him on the other side, in a room in the Pang Moon family residence, kneeling before his father. Jeonmon has also completed training in his closed room. Junggeun's resentment and anger at Muji has not disappeared, especially when he hears that Muji was assigned his family to attend the Muram conference. Now intending to finish him off praise, he asks his father to contact the assassin plan to kill Muji, who is now on the way, and the request is approved by Jeonmun's father. In another place, Muji's group was seen crossing the mountain range for 4 hours. This group moved with the help of science to relieve Muji's body. At the very front, there was not the slightest hint of fatigue in his small body, while the guards who were behind were already on the loose to compensate for Muji's fast movement. Some of them even vomited like a landsick, because non-stop spending their energy asking Muji for a moment to rest, but unfortunately the request was rejected by Muji, who had returned quickly elsewhere. The team of miners from the Dark Energy user group had found what they were looking for: a door carved with a black dragon buried deep in the bowls of the mountain. The young man who led them then channeled his dark energy. Then we know if this man is a descendant of Ad Force Sangai Mera, whose leader had brought destruction around Muram. This figure is the figure referred to by grandfather. Muji's little girlfriend, who had discussed earlier behind the door, was stuck a red sword, sealed with a chain of swords, called the Red Heavenly Sword. It is said that this sword was originally pure white, but turned red because it absorbed the blood of thousands of Muram knights who were killed by its users. The man then tried to pull out the sword, and instantly the spirit of his predecessor appeared to know if this man was his descendant. The spirit then lowered a dark energy to the man. A row of black magic spells then floated in the air. A black flash also enveloped the man. This moment became the starting point of the rise back to the red floor, and became a new threat to all the students on the other side. Of the Muji group is now resting after a dozen wading through the wilderness of the guards appear around the campfire while eating their supplies. While Muji himself was dissolved in his training, when all the guards fell asleep, Muji's training reached its climax. Now Muji can feel every movement around him. Wind direction wave of contention. Even the sound of small insects around him can now be perfectly. Muji had like a third eye thanks to this hard training so far. Achievement after achievement, Muji was still in a reclining position with full concentration. A small group of people quickly moved to the front of the Hall of Fame. The shadow turned out to be a group of assassins who had been hired by Pakeng's family to kill Muji before with a sword weapon that resembled a whip. One of them even quickly attacked Muji. Luckily, Muji, who has been increasing his martial skills, can avoid and warn the group if they are being attacked. A fight in the middle of the night takes place. Each of Muji's bodyguards must at least fight against 2 assassins, while Muji himself is now faced with a chief assassin who has the greatest ability among the attackers. Although he has mastered the 8th layer, Muji still lacks fighting experience. Realizing this, he decided to lure the chief assassin to another place so that he could focus on fighting the chief one-on-one without fear of being disturbed by other assassins. Muji's bodyguards initially oppose this idea as they intend to help their young master, but Muji convinces them that he can take down the assassin. And the chase between Muji and the chief assassin also happened. Trees fell due to the attack from the whip of the chief assassin several times. Both the sword and the fallen tree almost injured Muji's body. The darkness of the night also instantly becomes bright due to lightning sparks and sparks from the friction of the 2 weapons, until at one time Muji's sword slashes, which have been flowed, which cut the assassin's body into 2. This is the first murder committed by Muji. Still with the fresh blood of the assassin who soaked his hands, Muji was sculpted. It took time for Muji to get used to the victim's blood, and the real fight that made life a gamble this moment was used by other assassins who had followed to attack Muji. Luckily, one of his bodyguards managed to save him. Fresh blood again soaked the boy's face. This is the harsh reality in the world of students. In the end, the strong ones who can survive seeing their leader is dead. Some assassins who are still alive fled, not wanting to lose track of the attacker. Muji's bodyguards threw bombs containing the scent of flowers that can be used to track their whereabouts in the future. More than half of the attacking assassins died while on Muji's side. Some of the bodyguards were seriously injured the next day after resting in a safe place overnight. Muji's group decided to find the location of the beggar attacker assassin to be the only option for them, as in the Murium title, most beggar clans are always depicted with the information center organization of their large number of members, as well as superior disguise abilities being one of the peculiarities of this clan. With a few coins and the Muji Heavenly Sword clan's family aid finally delivered by the branch chairman of the beggar clan in the area, some important information managed to get. They were also introduced to a burly young man with a permanent tattoo on the right side of his body. It is said that this young man inherited a high level of science from his family that centered on sharpening the sense of smell like a dog, so that any extent a person ran away from home or lost his smell could be smelled by this man by smelling the smell samples that left rather strange that they were, thanks to the smell investigation of the muscular man earlier. Muji and his bodyguards now get the last location of the assassin in their house, and then come to that location while waiting for a group of other families. Apparently, there are other parties who also hold a grudge against this assassin group, and this is used by Muji to increase the portion of the assassin's crackdown force. Before long, the Muji waiting group arrived. The assault mission began. Dozens of heat that had been attached explosives released by the alliance group marked the Muji group, who were on the front line, could start their attack. Explosions were heard everywhere one by one. The assassin group was also successfully subverted according to the plan. There was no mercy for the assassins this time, while in the deepest part of the headquarters a thin man appeared watching his property to be taken away. This man was apparently the leader of the assassin group who had previously attacked Muji. A combination of 2 dark martial arts attacks on his base. This man realized that this was the biggest disaster for his group when he was in the middle of the lath-packing Muji's group entering like Hattori ninjas. The chief assassin, who was cornered, threw a smoke bomb to escape. The chase between Muji and the chief assassin, who ran into the forest, also occurred a variety of ninja moves, such as cloning moves, hiding moves to remove the aura issued by the chief assassin in order to save his life. Unfortunately, Muji, who is past the 8th level of coconut and heavenly martial arts, can break and know all the types of moves of the chief assassin, which ultimately makes the chief assassin lose. Our hero wins easily in this fight and manages to get all the evidence about the involvement of Paking's family in the previous assassin attack. After packing and dividing all the loot from the assassinades on all his bodyguards, Muji's group now continues the journey forest by forest, mountain and valley, passed by Muji's group without any significant obstacles, until one day they arrive at the territory of Kelen Beladili Shaolin, a row of pagodas which are the graves of Shaolin monks welcoming the arrival of Muji's group. The smell of alcohol and grilled meat immediately called the funeral group, then looking for its origin. When Muji found the source, a monk beard was sitting relaxed enjoying wine, and also grilled meat at the top of one of the tombs. No, if Muji realized his presence, this monk quickly disappeared, very regular movements. Muji even had to use the power of his third eye to search for this monk, and how surprised Muji was that this monk again knew that he was being watched. Feeling that something was wrong, Muji also invited the group to rush to the Shaolin temple. When he arrived at the Muji temple, which was greeted by the head monk, telling about the strange monk, the head monk explained that the monk was named Jin. He was a strong newt who chose to isolate himself with his own lifestyle. A tragedy in the past made him choose to leave Shaolin. Got this information, Muji actually felt curious to leave his entourage. Muji circled the forest here and there in search of the figure of Jin. There was a call from Muji, who said if his meeting with Jin was a good fate for Muji. After searching for long enough, Jin Muji finally found the bearded monk was cooking rabbits that he seized from the forest fox, with the power of which the fire Jin apparently knew was Mujiwasi, and he shouted for Muji to come out of hiding. Both are now facing each other. Surprisingly, Jin expressed words like people who are affected by mental disorders. Muji's great energy in the body seems to trigger something in Jin that makes him rave incoherently. Jin leaves Muji, just like Muji, who sees this, is getting curious. He quickly activated the body warning kick to chase the Jin, who ran very fast, was disturbed by the pursuit of the spinning Jin Muji, and attacked Muji with his magic footprint kick. The golden aura enveloped the palms of the Jin, challenged Muji to face the move with the same movement. The golden aura also came out of the two palms of Muji. The friction of the two energies was getting stronger all over the ground at the location of the two warriors were cracking. Jin, who was surprised by Muji's strong defense this time, used the palm of his other hand while laughing happily. And Muji was taken away thanks to the attack from the hands of this genie. The boy mutated the blood of all the veins throughout his body also stiffened. Muji was heard on the ground. A strange sound came out from all over Muji's body. A big change happened to his little body thanks to the fight earlier. Muji shook his muscles, hardened. Muji's eyes even released a white smoke light also came out of his mouth, until after a while the critical condition was successfully subsided, and the genie had gone far into the forest, leaving Muji lying helpless. 3 days have passed since the incident. Muji now woke up in the guest room of the Shaolin temple. Apparently Muji's bodyguards managed to find Dana and bring her to this place. A foul smell filled the room. Muji, who just realized was grumbling, has been laid in a dirty bed, but one of Muji's bodyguards actually explained, starting from him being found lying in the forest, all over Muji's body secreting black liquid. Without stopping, Muji's bodyguards assumed if it was a dirty blood coat, or the English term infidelities, that came out by itself thanks to a big change in Muji's body accidentally. Again, a new achievement in life. Muji did not recover from what he experienced. Muji again looking for the whereabouts of Jin in his third meeting with Cheon Muji, this time had to go home with a battered Jin with empty hands, all out beating Muji's little body no mercy. We've Monk Berwok. This the next day when Muji woke up. Strangely, Muji felt all his muscles stronger thanks to Bunyoken by the monk beard, and Muji excited back into the forest to find the whereabouts of the Jin. In this fourth battle, they fought 2 days and nights without stopping until in the end, Jin told Muji to use his sword enlightenment, obtained by Muji this time, when Jin raved if Muji had to use a sword like an extension of his own arm. Instantly attack after attack lodged by Jin with his stick can be deflected with a test sword, which in the end the ultimate attack from Muji also split Jin's stick into two. The last 2 days of training with this crazy monk brought Jin's sword ability to the next level. At the end of the story, Jin is like giving Muji an energy channel as a farewell greeting. And we are already at the end of the story of Season 1 of this manhwa. The total chapters that we have summarized so far are 43 chapters. As for the status of this manual, now in a 7-month hiatus, since the hiatus, there is no further information about the continuation of the story. We can only wait here while hoping that the author can continue the story of the scholar warrior. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe. Goodbye.